What would you do if you pulled over at a rest stop late at night, went into the bathroom alone, and the person outside the stall says your full name? This is Scared with Jess, and today's story is about someone who said that they went to a bathroom late at night and something happened that they just can't explain. This happened when I was driving back home alone after visiting family. It was already late when I left, later than I should have. I had work the next day and I didn't want to spend money on a hotel, so I'd figured I'd just push through and get home. It was one of those drives where the highway starts feeling endless after a certain point. And by the time I pulled off at the rest stop, I was tired enough that everything felt a little unreal already. There weren't many cars there, I remember that clearly. A pickup near the vending machines, a semi farther out. The main building had lights on, but the place felt half dead. You know that feeling when a public place is technically open, but it already feels shut down for the night? It was like that. I almost didn't get out, and then I told myself I was being stupid, so I grabbed my keys and I went inside. The women's bathroom was empty when I walked in. I checked without meaning to, a quick glance under the stalls and the mirrors and the sinks, the trash can by the door. Nobody was there. That mattered later. I went into the far stall, locked it, and sat down for maybe 20 seconds before I heard someone come in. Bare feet. That was the first thing that bothered me. Not footsteps with shoes. Skin on tile. And it was slow. I remember going still right away and listening. The steps stopped near the sink. Then I heard humming. An older woman's voice. Soft and almost tuneless, but just enough to know she was standing there outside. And at first I thought maybe somebody had come in from a nearby car and I had just missed her somehow. It still felt strange though. Who walks barefoot into a rest stop bathroom after midnight? And the humming kept going. And then it stopped. A few seconds later, I heard the faucet turn on. Water running and then off. And then it was quiet again. I should have left right then. I know that now. Instead, I stayed where I was because at that point, I still wanted there to be a normal answer. Somebody weird, fine. Somebody on something, maybe. Somebody from the road having a bad night. Whatever. Normal enough that I could get out and wash my hands and leave without speaking. But then the woman spoke. At first, her voice sounded light and elderly and worn out. She said, "Are you almost done in there?" I didn't answer. The question by itself wasn't the problem. It was how close she sounded. Not by the sinks anymore. Right outside the row of stalls. I looked down without thinking, and I could see bare feet under the stall door. Wet and standing still. I said, "Just a minute." And then she said my full name. First and last. Exactly right. Every bit of tiredness left me at once. I stared at the feet under the stall and didn't say anything. I don't think I could have, even if I wanted to. And then she said my name again. Softer this time. Almost fondly. I asked, "How do you know me?" Then the woman laughed. Only it didn't stay an old woman's laugh for long. It dropped while she was doing it. And I mean the sound itself changed. It started light and thin and then sank into something rough and low that did not fit the feet outside the stall at all. I grabbed my phone and stood up so fast. The feet under the stall had not moved. And then the voice said in that deeper sound now, "Open the door." I climbed onto the toilet and I did not care how insane that was. I got both feet up and pressed myself against the stall wall so I could lean over and look over the door. At first, I saw nobody, and that lasted maybe half a second. Then something slow rose into view from the other side. Not by standing up, more like it had bent too low and was now unfolding. I saw the top of a head first, and then a forehead, and then eyes. They were too wide and fixed on me already, like it had known exactly where my face would be when I looked. The skin looked gray under the bathroom lights, and the mouth was hanging wide open. Wet hair was stuck to the side of the face, and the neck was too long. That's what I remember almost clearly, the way it kept lifting higher than it should have, bringing the face over the stall door inch by inch until it was looking right at me. And then it smiled, and in that deep voice right in front of me now, it said, "I knew you'd look." I screamed. I don't remember unlocking the stall. I must have, because the next thing I knew, I was out, and I ran through the building and out into the parking lot with my keys in one hand and my phone in the other. I got in my car and I locked the doors and started so fast I nearly flooded the engine. And then I looked back at the building. She was standing inside the bathroom doorway, too still, one hand on the frame and head tilted. From where I sat in the car, she still looked like an old woman at first glance, small and thin and barefoot. And then the overhead light caught her face and I saw the mouth hanging open and those eyes fixed right on my windshield. I threw the car into reverse, and as I backed out, she lifted one hand, not waving, pointing one finger toward herself. I left so fast I forgot my drink, and one of my shoes was half untied the whole drive home. The next morning, I told myself I had been exhausted, that I had spooked myself, that maybe there had been a real person in there, and my brain twisted it into something else because it was late and I was alone. Then I checked my phone. I had opened my camera at some point in the stall, I think when I panicked, and there was a video. Only a few seconds long and mostly shaking floor and metal and my own breathing. But then the camera jerks upward. And for 1 second, right before the clip ends, you can see the face lifting over the stall door. The gray skin and the wet hair, and eyes looking locked on the lens, and that smile starting to open. Anyway, good luck sleeping tonight.
I will never ever pass up a story from La Llorona, and I really hope you guys like them too, because I will forever translate them. However, I will say that today's story has kind of a twist at the end. So this guy says that this happened to his father when he was younger, and this is a story that the father continues to tell in the family over and over again. He explains that today his father is very religious, he's very close with God, and he wouldn't think that his father would make something like this up. So he explains that this happened to his father when he was 25 years old, and they had already had him at the time. However, his parents, for like the first 2 years of him being born, were not together. His parents basically lived their single lives, and then later on in life they connected again and they ended up getting married. Why weren't they together the first 2 years? I want to know everything. I'm so fucking nosy. I don't give a fuck if I don't know these people. I want to know why. Anyway, so at the time the dad's 25 and he loved being out in nature. He especially loved when he was with his cousins and they would go camping. So they'd always go in the forest, you know, go camp out on their own with nobody around, and they would tend to do that a lot. But it wasn't those times when they experienced something. It was in a time where they went to camp out in this really big farm that was actually close to the city. They would only go to this ranch when they couldn't plan out like a really big trip or like to go into a really deep forest. So they would always go to this specific ranch because you could either camp out or they have like cabins that you could rent out as well. So it was around 2 in the morning. They were already in that ranch and everybody had already gone to sleep except for his dad and his uncle. The uncle had actually just been broken up with, and it was a relationship that he had for a very long while. Why did they break up? So of course he was really sad. The dad was trying to console his brother, you know, trying to make him feel better, and that's when they started to hear like footsteps around the grass where they were. They both get up alert and just wanted to see what was happening, because even though the ranch did have a gate, and the way that those footsteps were getting closer and closer, it could be something threatening. That's when they see a little boy coming from out of those bushes asking them for help. La Llorona, ahí viene, which means La Llorona, she's coming, she's coming. At first they thought it was a prank, but the little boy did look very fucking scared. And when they asked him like, what's wrong, what's happening, he pointed to where one of the like hills were, and they were at the bottom of that hill. So he pointed up over there. The dad ends up walking towards the hill and he sees nothing, but that is when his brother behind him says, no, look right there, I see something right there. When the dad finally turns to look at where his brother's pointing at, he can make out that there was a lady in black walking in between one of the hills and some of those log cabins. The dad still thought that maybe it was a prank, because even if, let's say, it was La Llorona, he was looking at something that was never described as La Llorona. He said that every time he would hear stories, she was always in a white dress, and when he's looking at this lady, she is wearing a black dress. So all three of them, the little boy, the dad, and the uncle, kind of like hid behind one of the bushes, and they were staring at that lady until they saw that she was walking farther away from them to where like the entrance of the ranch was. Now, even though they did see just a lady in black, they never doubted that this was something paranormal, and the dad explained that it was because of the way that they felt when they saw the lady. He explains how they were all there huddled, and just like the feeling that they got, like he felt it down to his bones that something was not right. By the time they lost sight of this lady in black, they ended up walking the little boy to where his log cabin was, which was at a good distance to where they were. And apparently the reason why that little kid was out in the middle of the night was because he had gone outside to use the restroom. Again, in Mexico, a lot of the times restrooms are not inside the houses, especially if these are like log cabins. Apparently when this little boy went to use the restroom, he had seen this lady and just started running at any direction that he could. I would have started running back to the log cabin, but hey, that is just me, and obviously I'm an adult and not a child. Obviously the little boy was lucky that he ran into them, being it was so late at night and a lot of people were already asleep, but thankfully they were able to get him back, and they went back to their own camping ground after that. The two men did end up going back to sleep. However, when they woke up the following morning, they noticed that there was a lot of movement in the campgrounds. They were packing up to go ahead and go home, and in the entrance they can see that there was an ambulance there. So what they found out was that that very night, apparently one of the elderly owners of that ranch did end up passing away peacefully in his sleep. After this, the father now knows what he saw, or at least he thinks he knows what he saw that night. He doesn't believe that he saw La Llorona that night, but he does believe that he saw death coming for this elderly man. But what do you guys think?
Do you see this creepy bathroom behind me? I was laying in bed the other night and I had a vision of a woman hanging herself. Oh my god, I'm getting chills again. And I talked to the neighbor, and guess what happened before I moved in? The woman hung herself in that bathroom. So I don't know what that means. And yes, it freaks me out now.
Good evening. That's very creepy. I just wanted to share this video and explain maybe why, and maybe I can help. This spirit won't rest because it was unhappy in their real life. When things like this happen, we hear stories all the time of women or men, when they hurt themselves, they will continue to stay in the place where they hurt themselves or died. So with her sadness and that energy still there in that bathroom, that energy still there, and that is very strong. Her sadness was very strong. That was a very concentrated sadness in that moment, that what she did. So that you probably have a sensitivity and have picked up on that energy, and she probably wanted you to know that she was sad here. I don't know which way, I have to know more of how you were feeling after. Like, were you scared? Do you feel scared there? Or do you feel sad? So it depends on how the girl in the apartment feels, Sophia, and I hope she's okay, but that is something that you don't want to be around, because the sadness can manifest into your own life, not to scare anybody, but it's like an energy, right? And you are absorbing the energy that it's there. You can pick up on like a sad vibe in an apartment, or a sad energy, and you don't want to be in that. So I suggest perhaps, I don't say contact the spirit, but you would, like a professional, maybe someone that can speak to spirits, like a medium, or maybe even a priest if you're religious, just to say like, hey, I'm so sorry, and allowing them to pass and go into the light. Obviously this is not something you do by yourself. I don't suggest that, but do it with someone that you think or has the experience and skill set to do so. I'd like to. Okay, so it's the next day, and I just saw that she posted a video saying that the spirit or whatever it is has become angrier. So Sophia, if you're watching this, I think just be a little careful, because angrier spirits that have the sadness and then now the anger can manifest into a very dark spirit. These dark spirits come from angry, sad energy or stories of the people that died basically in the house. So just be careful and take the advice that I mentioned about maybe talking to someone that can deal with this and help the spirit go into the light, and maybe look into the story of this person, maybe the story of the house, maybe just seeing why she did that. Maybe the energy in the house is not even from her. Maybe it's she could be warning you that the house is negative, and which made her feel negative about herself and to act on herself of self-harm. So please just consider these things, and just look into the information on the house and the energy on the house, and perhaps her story if you can.
If you're scared of the Hat Man, a skinwalker, or a werewolf, you're afraid of the wrong thing. You should be scared of a Wendigo. Lip oil on so I can run this mouth. Now focus. Scary story time, Fright Night Files. So I've been researching Wendigos for my next podcast episode, and when I tell you there's things about it that I had never heard before, and I'm like, wait a minute, why aren't people talking about this? Because this mofo is terrifying. So the indigenous nations of the Ojibwe and Algonquin people have been talking about this thing forever. They live in the northern forest of Minnesota, Canada, and the Great Lakes, and they've been up there like seeing this thing, interacting with this thing since the beginning of time. It's described in a lot of different ways, but the main thing that everyone like references is its teeth. And not in the way that you're thinking, because it doesn't just have like big teeth or razor sharp teeth. It's only teeth. It only has teeth. It has no lips, because you know why? It ate them. It ate its lips. Why would it do that? Because its hunger is so infinite and insatiable. The more it gets, the more it wants, the more it wants, the more it gets. It's just like this endless cycle. It's like face is just this massive maw of jagged yellow teeth coming for you. And get this, the more it eats, the bigger it gets. The bigger it gets, the more it wants to eat. This thing just keeps like growing and getting more massive and intimidating and scary just by the minute. But why is it even a thing? How did it become a thing in the first place? Good question. I'm going to tell ya. So it all started from cannibalism and famine. So when people were starving and they had like no other form of feeding themselves, and a lot of them apparently, allegedly, resorted to cannibalism, just like people, not specific types of people, just if anyone did this, then you become this Wendigo. And people are going to be like, quit saying its name. I'm not going to do anything that's going to make it show up. I'm not going to be like a cannibal or be out in the woods in the dark. Like, duh, I'm not dumb. Anyway, it has like antlers and this big hunchback. Way scarier than the photos of the alleged skinwalker. Another thing I'm going to do to make sure that me and a Wendigo don't cross paths, I'm going to do this episode, tell you all about it, and then I'm going to shut the hell up about them, because there's this thing called Wendigo psychosis. It's where someone becomes so obsessed with Wendigos that they start wanting to do the things that Wendigos do. And there's people that's been like put in medical places, like mental places, because they wouldn't stop begging to turn into one of them. There's historical accounts of people begging to be restrained so that they don't turn into a Wendigo. These people that have Wendigo psychosis, they feel like something is forcing them, like forcing the urge. Historical accounts describe people begging to be restrained because they were afraid of what they might do. Ugh. I mean, that's not folklore anymore. That's like documented behavior. And not only does it grow bigger, like taller as it eats, it shrinks in size, like the more it consumes. Like the other cryptids, it can sound like people you know. So if you ever hear anyone calling your name in the woods, it could be Skinwalker, Wendigo, werewolf, boogeyman, I don't know. Just never answer your name when it's called in the woods. And it wasn't just like created, they all started as people. Some say that this thing like enters your body and twists your thoughts until you become something other than yourself. See, this thing is scary. Why aren't more people talking about it? Well, I mean, I guess I can see why. Like, I mean, maybe I shouldn't be talking about it. You're probably really scared right now, and I don't blame you. You should be, because this thing is like unhinged and very terrifying. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. This thing can be like, and it's brutal, and I will tell you how to do it. But I'm only going to tell you in my podcast episode. So if you want to know, you have to go listen there. It's worth it. I promise you'll love it.
Hello and welcome back to a series of spooky stories, The Haunted Tea Spill. This series is brought to you by all things spooky and ungodly amounts of paranormal activity. Featuring my initial necklace, they also have silver as well. It's down here if you want it. Now to the story. Hi, this is Shannon again. This time I have a story about my mom and my brother. I don't know if it matters for this story, but we live in the Appalachian Mountains. I feel like that matters for every story. You live in the Appalachian Mountains, of course we're not surprised that crazy shit is going on. You know what I mean? My mom fell asleep in the kitchen on the chair. It's something that she tends to do from time to time. She started to dream, and in her dream, she was in a room empty of everything except for this woman, and she was dressed in black. But it wasn't a dress, and she had black hair, and it looked like something was standing behind her. To recap from the last story, my brother and I both have seen a woman with black hair peek around a corner at us. Okay, jogging my memory. All of a sudden, my mom was on her back off of the chair as if she had been knocked over or something. She sat up and just stared at the woman. The woman started coming closer and tried to inject my mom with something that seemed to be coming out of her finger. Sounds like an episode of Supernatural. Yeah, it sounds like a djinn. Is anybody else thinking that? Is it just me? But before she would get to her, my mom would wake up. I swear to God, it sounds like a djinn because they like inject you and then you're stuck in this dreamlike state or whatever. At least on Supernatural, okay? That's what I know from there, not from the actual lore. So if that's incorrect, blame Supernatural, not me, okay? She couldn't stay awake though and would fall back to sleep and right back into that same dream. This went on for about 3 or 4 times, and every time she would be closer. Fucking hell, imagine literally trying to fight for your life in your fucking dream and you keep waking up but you just can't stay awake for the life of you. And then you just go back to sleep and you're having the same fucking dream over and over again, and then you're just closer to death. The last time my mom fell asleep, the woman was hovering over her and she could feel the evil coming off of the woman. My mom's first reaction was to put on the full body armor of God and then kick her. How does one do that? Just out of curiosity. My mom kicked the evil woman hard and tried to send her back to hell where she came from. After that, my mom woke up because she didn't just kick her in her dream, she kicked the woman with her physical body as well, and that broke her out of her sleep state. She's pretty sure that she broke some of her toes and potentially her foot. You gotta put your whole ass into it if you're trying to go toe-to-toe with evil. So yeah, she probably did. My brother woke up a few minutes later and my mom started telling him about her dream when he interrupted her to tell her that he had a dream too. He usually doesn't dream or he doesn't remember them. And his dream sounded a lot like hers. And they're convinced that it was. He was fighting a horde of evil spirits in his dream. There is more that happened. Tell us. This is one that my mom shared with me. That's fucking crazy. And I could be mistaken, but I swear to God that... Don't they have something that comes out of their fucking hand? Yeah! They have something that comes out of their hand in Supernatural, to be very clear. They have this weird, crazy, like, bone spiny thing that comes out of their hand and then they like stick it in their head or something. And it feeds off of them. And it keeps them in like this comatose, catatonic type state. And you're stuck in like this dream loop. Like if you were the person that is like being tortured by this djinn or whatever. So that's what I think I'm thinking of. I could be wrong. So let me know in the comments what you think that it is. Also, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least scary, creepy, spooky, 10 being the most. If you have a story that you want to submit, you can do so on the link tree in my profile. Don't forget to go follow my backup account. I am saving money to buy a new car. My truck is fixed for the time being. Let's cross our fingers. But it's time to retire her to the backup. So I am saving for a new car. Any money that I make off of that account is money that is going towards the car jar. That's what we're calling it. So anyway, I will see you all at the next episode. Stay spooky, friends.
Let's talk about one of the most haunted and cursed places you definitely should not be visiting this summer. I know the weather is warm. We want to go to lakes and beaches,
But let's maybe not go to this particular lake. And as someone who grew up on the Florida-Georgia line, we always talked about how this is the lake that you should not go to. We always heard about the immense amount of drownings that happened at this place and people being snatched under the water and the hauntings, and how this is the place where you don't go in the damn water. I'm going to give you a brief little history on what happened before the hauntings and the curses began. Remember, I'm saying brief because I only have 3 minutes, so don't yell at me in the comments talking about I missed something or left something out. I have 3 minutes. Brief. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm talking about Lake Lanier in Georgia. Before it was Lake Lanier, before it was a lake at all, it was a town called Oscarville. It was a predominantly Black community, a thriving Black community, and as history tells us, certain people don't like that, and they weren't happy about that. So when a few crimes happened, they immediately decided this is our chance to blame the community that we want gone, which is what they did. And they forcibly ran them out and flooded the entire fucking town and turned it into a giant lake. No, they did not open floodgates and drown everyone all at once like what, people assume, I think. They actually bullied them out of their homes, essentially, and forced them out of their thriving town. Years after this is when it actually got turned into a lake, and that's what we now have as Lake Lanier. And obviously when you do that and you cover up graves and you flood graves, there's still buildings standing. I believe that the only ones that were removed were ones that were over like 35 feet tall. This needs a deep dive, okay? But anyway, you covered up people's graves and homes, and there's energy and, I'd say, upset ancestors, understandably. And therefore you get a very haunted and cursed area of land and water. And therefore there are now claims very often of people being snatched under, people who are very good at swimming, never resurfacing. There's the very well-known Lady of the Lake, I think is what they call her. There are random accidents that happen that don't make any sense, like boats just exploding, people claiming that hands grabbed their feet and pulled them under. Since the creation of the lake in 1956, there have been over 700 deaths, and over 200 of those have been since 1994. There's also people who just disappeared and were never seen again. So maybe think again if you had the idea that you might want to go to Lake Lanier for the summer.
I used to be homeless, but while living at homeless camps, the same group of people sometimes showed up offering large sums of money for people to go with them for a work contract, but the people they took never came back. This spooky scary story time submission was sent in by someone named Sean, and he says that he was homeless from the year 2002 to about 2007, 2008, and he's sober now. He's got his life together, but this still bothers him, and he said he's sharing this just to get this off of his chest because he still can't really make sense of it. So he was homeless in a few different cities, but originally he was in New Orleans, and he said that he was using, I'm not sure what substance, but honestly it's not really my business, but he was living on a big homeless camp with about 20 other people who were partaking in the same sort of activities that he was. He said he was on a first name basis with a lot of these people, but many people use nicknames, and many of the people were transient in nature, meaning they would come and go from these camps. And that was normal. He said he did make friends, but it was hard to keep a handle on anyone else's life when he was struggling with addiction and trying to keep a hand on his own. I'm not sure how long he was at the camp, but it seemed like he was settled the night that the first van showed up. He said he was back at the camp and it was late at night. It was probably around 11 p.m., though he's not certain. And most of the people that stayed at the camp were already back for the night. He was sharing his tent with a girl he remembers being called TJ around the camp when a black Sprinter van pulled up. Some people stirred and went out to meet the van because sometimes groups of volunteers would drop off supplies like food or new clothing, but a man and a woman got out empty-handed. The man, he says he doesn't quite remember what exactly he looked like other than he was a white man and he was very average looking, middle-aged. The woman seemed a little bit younger and she had bright red hair that was pulled tight into a bun and she was wearing a black pantsuit. The man didn't say anything, but the woman said, "Whoever wants to make some money, we've got a $250 job contract. You'll be back by morning." Nobody really budged or said anything, and she pulled out a wad of cash from her pocket and started showing them that she actually had the money and said, I can pay you on the spot right now. Sean said he didn't budge. He had already used for the night. He had already made the money that he wanted to make for the day, and he said he was content where he was. But TJ and 3 other people from the camp who were men, so TJ was the only woman, approached the woman and started asking questions like, what's the job? When will we be back? And she said, get in the van. We'll explain it to you on the way to the job, but we'll have you back in the morning. The 4 of them lined up to get in the van. But before they stepped in the van, the woman insisted that they take off their shoes to inspect the soles of their feet as well as their hands. TJ and 2 of the men were permitted to enter the van, but 1 man was turned away, though they didn't specify why. Sean went back into his tent and heard the van pull away, but in the morning when he woke up, none of the people had been returned to the camp. Sean went about his day, and when he returned to the camp later on, they were still not back. And some of the people around the camp were talking about it, but unfortunately, transient nature was part of living there. Sean said they were all too sad and wrapped up in what they all had going on in their respective lives to pay them too much attention. They just hoped they had found a better opportunity. A few years later, Sean had moved on and was now staying at a homeless camp in Chicago. He hadn't thought about the van or the people who disappeared with it from that point because he said that many other things happened that were far crazier in that time frame. Though Sean was still homeless by this point, he had secured work as a dishwasher under the table at a restaurant near where they were staying, and he had brought some food back to share with an older man who stayed at the camp named Mikey, and Mikey had a lot of physical difficulties and often struggled with finding ways to make money or to secure food for himself. And so Sean and Mikey were sharing a meal when another Sprinter van pulled up to the camp. Instantly, Sean was brought back to that night years ago in Louisiana when that first Sprinter van had taken TJ and those other men. He almost started to tell Mikey about it when the van stopped and the same couple got out. It was the same man and it was the same woman with the red hair pulled back into a bun, though this time she was dressed a little bit more casual. The woman started with the same speech. Whoever wants to make some money, I've got $250 on it. If you line up, we can discuss the work contract in the van. We'll have you back by morning. But Mikey stepped up. He started yelling at everyone in the camp. None of y'all are going. He said, when these people take someone, they ain't come back. The woman looked at Mikey and seemed annoyed, and she pulled a wad of cash from her pocket and said, look, I can pay you guys right now. And a few people actually ignored Mikey's warning and lined up next to the van. But Mikey continued, and Sean says in retrospect, he probably sounded crazy to anyone with an untrained ear because Mikey was yelling, I'm telling y'all, if you go with them, it's not going to be anywhere good. But a few people did go, and the couple repeated this same process of checking the soles of their feet and the palms of their hand. This time they turned away 2 men, but took about 6 others. Sean says he still does not know exactly what they were looking for, but after the van pulled away, he asked Mikey, like, hey, who were those people? And Mikey said, I don't know, but they've been coming around as long as I've been on the streets. He said there's no such thing as easy money with people like that. What do those people want with people like us? And then Sean tells him about the night that he was in Louisiana years earlier, and they took people from his camp. And Mikey says, yeah, that makes sense. They don't come around that often, but every couple months. Usually by the time they come back, there's nobody left from the old camp, but I've seen it happen enough times to know that the people don't return. Sean says that while he hopes that all of the people that went with this couple found better opportunities, his gut tells him otherwise. And he said had he not seen it twice himself, he wouldn't have believed what Mikey told him. He said that even though he has found religion, has gotten his life together, and is in a much better place now, he still believes that there are evil people that prey on people who don't have names. And he said that he believes that dangerous people prey on those who can barely help themselves. Sean said he did not want to be named properly, but he will be reading the comments, so if anyone has any idea of who these people were or where they were taking the people that he once lived with, let him know your thoughts. And just as a disclaimer, Spooky Scary Storytime is a listener submitted series sent in by real people, but I can't verify the facts of any of these stories. Keep in mind anybody could send these in, so this series is for entertainment only. I have to say that now. If you have a story that you think nobody would believe or that still leaves you unsettled or that you just want crowd feedback from, send it in. We would love to hear it.
I don't know what it is about mimics, but they just freak me out so bad. Some of the stories I share involve creatures busting through glass, but for some reason, when I read and think about the situation of being in my own home and hearing voices speaking to me that are not there and that are not the person they should be, no, thank you. One of my followers reached out to me recently and shared this story. He said that he'd like to be referred to as F for the story, but for the sake of the story, we're going to call him Finley. This happened to him in 2022 when he was 17 years old. And yeah, this one got me. So Finley says that ever since he's a child, he would randomly hear voices that sounded exactly like either his mother or his sister. calling his name. And every single time he'd go find them and they would say, no, they had never called him. He says that this happened enough times that it almost became just a weird phenomenon going on at his house. Just the norm. And so he accepted it. So it became like a standard. He'd hear his name. He'd go looking for whoever he thought called it. He'd realize it wasn't them. And then he just sort of brushed it off until April of 2022. His mom and stepdad were in Aruba on vacation. They'd been gone for a few weeks. And at the time, Finley was home alone. Also, his bedroom happened to be in the basement. So at first he was just sitting on his bed, watching TV, a normal night, nothing unusual. And then he heard his mother's voice calling him from upstairs. He said it sounded exactly like her. It was clear as anything, and he was really confused for a second because, he knew she was in Aruba. But he grabbed his phone and he started checking locations, not just hers, but also his sister's, just in case. Nobody was anywhere near the house, and he almost convinced himself that he was imagining it. Almost. And then he heard it again. Finley? He said this time something was off, because it sounded like his mom, but also more monotone and almost robotic. Almost like someone doing an impression of her voice without fully understanding how human voices work. And that's when it hit him. Those phantom voices he had been hearing his whole life. There's something calling him, and it is inside the house. So on high alert, his heart is pounding out of his chest and his hair is standing on it. He jumps up out of bed and he runs across the room and quickly locks the door. And the voice just kept going, right outside his door now. Finley, Finley, Finley. Over and over robotically, the same tone every time. No variation or emotion, just his name. And then just once it said something different. Open the door. He said he was lying in his bed, absolutely frozen, had no idea what to do, because what does one do in a situation like that? And as if that wasn't enough, then the door handle starts to jiggle. And not violently, just enough, almost like something was testing to see if it would open. And then it went quiet. The voice was gone, the jiggling stopped. There were no sounds of footsteps sort of leaving, no other sounds of doors opening or closing, just sort of gone. So he laid there for a few more minutes to gather up the courage, and then reluctantly, he decided he needed to go up and check. So he walked all around upstairs in every room, and no doors or windows were open. Everything was locked from the inside. There's just no way in or out and no one there. So he's not able to do much more. And with that, he goes back downstairs and locks his door and puts on a show as a distraction. He says to this day he still doesn't have a solid explanation and he can only assume it's a mimic. He's 21 now and he says he hopes to God nothing like that ever happens again. With all of these mimic stories, it really makes me wonder, what would happen if you answered and let them in? I've heard things like my own name being whispered loudly into my ear, like Lindsay, over the years, and not just at my house, but random places. But never that voice that sounds like somebody or even worse, when the voice mimics your own. All right, y'all, you know what to do. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. I am sure F will be in there to see what you say. You gotta let me know if you have your own mimic story. Oh my gosh, All right, and if you're new here, don't forget to follow for more creepy story time.
Snacks in hand, the vibe is set, and once I start, don't eat too much, because you gotta stay fine. But come on, bestie, yeah! Hi, bestie, I missed you. What you doing? You wanna go get your snack? You want to go get your Okay, you got it, okay. I'm currently uploading a new compilation on YouTube. So if you want my story times in long form, it's on my YouTube channel. Any other channel is just making money off me. They have been for years. That's why I decided to do it myself. So because of the last 2 major sales I had on the ebook, I have a lot of reviews, but I'm scared to tell you guys, if I want to be honest, because I don't want y'all to think that, yeah. So this one won't be a review, but if you guys do want to hear the reviews, let me know. I'm just scared that you guys are going to think that I'm only telling reviews for sales, because people are already starting to say that. But the real ones, no. I was telling stories before the book, Anyway, let's get on to the story. And for this story, I feel like I have to really be careful how I say it. Certain things that the person said, I probably can't say. So if some parts of the story probably don't make sense, just know it's because I'm trying to protect myself, because this is like huge. Anyway, so this submitter is from France, and she says that there is something wrong with the Eiffel Tower. There is something dark about the Eiffel Tower. This person says she has a gift, right? She can see things that others can't. She can feel things that others can't, especially from objects, right? So if there's some kind of energy or something attached to an object, she can see or feel it. And she claims that there are lots of evil, negative things attached to the Eiffel Tower. And she was raised in France, but she wasn't from there at first. She's from Africa. And her family ended up moving over there. But ever since she was younger, she had this gift. And so when she first moved to France, the Eiffel Tower, when her family made it like a trip, they went to visit it. It is nowhere near what she expected it to be when she used to see it in Africa, like the movies. She never got a chance to actually enjoy it, because the moment she got there, she felt it all. And she saw it all. She says that she sees spirits of people that have passed away at the Eiffel Tower, which is caused by the Eiffel Tower, but it looks like an accident, or, this is all alleged. I don't want to get in trouble. And so their first trip there, obviously she was really excited, and then she saw and felt what she felt. She never wanted to go back, but her parents and stuff like that, like her family members, they love going over there. And she would always tell them, please do not go over there, please. There are things waiting for people that are weak spiritually to take advantage. She says she has watched, like, on the news, people passing away around there. And then later on, when she goes back and visit, she sees the energy of those people, and it's not good. They are, like, allegedly enslaved. And again, I wish I can, like, say some of the things that she said, but again, I don't want to get in trouble, and I know this video might get, like, suppressed because it has to do with the America country too. There's a lot of America things there. Damn! I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. So this story time is not much of a story, but more like a warning to anybody that is very excited to go to the Eiffel Tower and visit it. Make sure that you are spiritually protected. Make sure that you are a prayer warrior, because another pattern that she sees is that people go to visit, and even if they're not from France, they're like from other countries, they go and visit, and everything's fine, it's beautiful, or whatever experience that they had, and they go back home and things start to go very wrong, but they never put those two connections together, because a lot of the times some of the things that she sees over there attach parts of themselves to you for like a really long time, because she says, from what she feels and stuff and that she knows in her spirit, these things have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. So at this point, they're like experts. And so this thing could attach to you for like damn near the rest of your life, and you never even made that connection that it was that, especially with like kids that goes and visits. She says that she like advises parents not to bring their kids, because kids are pure. Kids are very much, that's why a lot of people use kids as sacrifice, allegedly, because kids are like the perfect kind of sacrifice, and so in a way it's kind of like that, but just like unintentionally. I'm nervous about this video a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just here to deliver the message, but yeah, that's basically it, y'all. It's not much of a story time, but more so, yeah. I wasn't gonna tell it, but I'm like, no, I need to tell this. If you guys want more information on it, she said that there's a lot of like stories that she thinks that she knows of people that have been there and have been victims. Like, she feels she can definitely send a list of things that you guys should probably look out for if you guys are gonna go, but she highly suggests that you you know what, I'm gonna just end it here. I love you. Don't forget to tell me what you're eating in the comments. Don't forget to get your ebook if you're gonna go over there. Okay, I love you. Bye.
The Midwest actually has a particular set of rules when it comes to cornfields. For instance, you shouldn't go too deep into a cornfield. You should never go into a cornfield at night. If you are to get lost in a cornfield, you should follow that same row of corn all the way out. Don't look back. If you hear something call your name, don't respond. And if you hear someone yelling for help, do not go too far into the cornfield. Now, this is a story that comes out of Iowa. There was this guy named Jerry. Jerry said him and a group of friends, they decided one night to go out to this cornfield. Now, apparently the legend was that deep in the middle of this cornfield was this tree, which they called the screaming tree. And it was said if you go there at midnight, you could hear screams coming from within the tree. And also the legend was several people had gone to that tree and disappeared. So they decided to go and check it out. So they parked their car next to this dirt road. They get out and they make their way into the cornfield. Well, Jerry said as they were walking, that's when they started to hear the sound of like stuff moving through the cornfield. They said it almost sounded like if a dog was running past them, and then back behind them. And they could hear these sounds all around them, but they had no idea what it was. So they continued on, and not too long they could see the tree off in the distance. So they're probably about 50, 60 feet away from this tree when they started to hear what they described as this singing. And they said it just was like this weird sort of, like just a strange singing music. And the closer they got to the tree, the louder it got. And as they come out to this little clearing where the tree is, said they could see something run behind the tree. And they all got scared and they took off running. Well, as they were running through the cornfield, they could hear stuff running like it was chasing them. And they ended up getting lost inside the cornfield. Well, that's when they said they stopped. And they were trying to figure out, okay, which way did we come from? As they were doing that, they said they heard like this clicking sound. And all of a sudden, they see the corn stalks open up. And they said there was this little head staring at them, had this pale white face, sharp teeth, and solid black eyes. And they said it just peeked back into the cornfield and just took off. So they ran out of there as fast as they could. They finally find their way out. They jumped in their car and they never returned. And Jerry said later on, he had a conversation with a friend who told him, on the reservation that I grew up on when I was younger, they spoke of these things called the little people who were like protectors or guardians of the land. And I think that's what you encountered that night.
The story of the RMS Queen Mary is absolutely terrifying and it's one of my favorite stories to tell. The Queen Mary was built in 1926, but the Great Depression hit, and so her first voyage, her maiden voyage, was delayed until 1936. Now, the ship liner was owned by the Cunard, I think that's how you say that, and they had acquired the White Star Line, which was the owner of the Titanic. Now, she was a luxury cruise ship, so you had like first class, second class, and third class. So not only was she like a luxury ship, she also would transport immigrants to and from. Another interesting fact is that the Queen Mary is the only ship left of its kind. All the other ships like it, example, the Titanic, are gone. When World War II started, she turned into a warship, basically. She was just transporting soldiers. She carried more than 800,000 soldiers on 72 trips from America to Australia and Scotland. But then after the war, she survived and she was docked, and now she is a hotel. Now people believe that the Queen Mary is haunted. In fact, if you go on YouTube and search the Queen Mary, you will see a lot of people spending the night on the Queen Mary trying to have a paranormal experience. One of the ghosts that people believe haunts the Queen Mary is the ghost of a crew member who was crushed by hatch door 13. People have claimed to see his ghost wandering the area where he passed away, and they've heard him whistling, and some people have even said that he's been heard asking for a wrench. In some of the bedrooms, people have claimed to see figures in just kind of wandering around or watching them. They'll have the covers pulled off of them at night, and the beds which were originally made will be unmade, and lights will be turning off and on, water turns off and on, and etc. People have also claimed to feel cold spots and feel the presence of someone walking by them. There's also a lot of images like this that people claimed are ghosts. So what are your thoughts? Would you stay the night in the Queen Mary? Also, I'm kind of running out of ideas when it comes to paranormal stuff, so if you have any suggestions, drop them down below. But let me know your thoughts on the Queen Mary and follow for more.
What would happen if you responded to a mimic? Now, when we hear about these encounters with mimics, there is often this invitation to let them in, to open the door, or to follow. But what would happen if you actually did? Now, there was this girl named Jill from South Carolina. She was driving home one night at 1 a.m., coming back from work. When she goes inside her house, all the lights are off. Her mom is upstairs asleep. Well, as she walks through the living room, she hears her mother's voice say, "Hello, Jill." She goes, "Mom, why are you up so late?" And all she hears is, "Hello, Jill." She goes, "Okay, Mom, like, why is all the lights off and why are you in the kitchen?" And she just responds, "Hello, Jill." So she was kind of freaked out and was like, okay, is something wrong with my mom? She flips the lights on and there's no one there. And as she goes upstairs to her mom's bedroom, she sees that her door is closed. When she opens it, she sees that her mom is in bed, sound asleep. So she starts trying to rationalize, okay, maybe my mom was talking in her sleep. So she just ignores it. Well, a couple days later, she said she was sitting in her bed, in her bedroom, when she sees her mom walk by. And she says, "Hey, Mom, can you go downstairs and grab me a bag of chips?" But her mom doesn't respond. So she goes to the door. She looks out the hallway. Her mom is not there. She is not even at the house. A few days after this, she is once again in her bedroom. And she hears her mom calling for her, telling her to come downstairs. So she gets ready to go down to the hallway and she remembers, wait a second, my mom is not home. So she stays in her bedroom until her mom gets there. And finally, a couple days after this, she is coming home from a friend's house. And as she gets out of her car, she notices her mom is standing on the sides of the house with her face turned. And she goes, "Mom, are you okay? Like, what are you doing outside?" And she hears, "Hello, Jill." She's like, "Mom?" And she's like, "Come with me into the woods." And she's like, what do you mean?" And she goes, "Come with me in the backyard to the woods." And she's kind of like, that's not my mom. She runs inside the house. She closes the door and she sees her mom is there in the kitchen. So she goes to her mom and she starts crying and she says, "There's something that's following me and it's pretending to be you." And her mom's just telling her, like, "Honey, it's okay. Like, there's nothing going on. Like, you're just stressing yourself out. It'll be okay." But she was insistent, "Mom, something is pretending to be you." Well, many months pass and she stops having these encounters. But then one night she gets a call from her mom. And her mom is like, "Hey, honey, I heard you calling me to go down into the basement, but I'm in the bathroom right now. I'll be down, in like 10 minutes. And she's like, "No, Mom, do not go down there. Do not go into the basement. That is not me. I am not at home." And her mom's like, "What are you talking about? Like, are you playing jokes with me?" And she's like, "No, Mom, I am not home." And her mom didn't believe her. She thought she was making it up. Well, a week later, she finds that her mother had passed away. And she felt like whatever was pretending to be her mother and then pretended to be her had something to do with it. And did her mom respond to this mimic?
The following story is what my grandma experienced. My grandma lives in Ecuador, and she has told a lot of scary stories from her small town called Checa. But here's one of them that caught my attention. One day at 5 in the morning, it was still a little dark out. My grandma and her sister's duties were to grab water from the river. So, with buckets in their hands, they went. To get to that small river, they had to hike up a hill and pass by an old abandoned cemetery. It was said that the cemetery had a lot of paranormal activity. And so, by fear, my grandma and her sisters began praying the rosary for those forgotten souls. As they were praying the Hail Mary, they heard what sounded like 30 people chanting the prayer with them. My grandma and her sisters all got scared, but my grandma said, "Sigamos rezando, no volteen." As they prayed, the voices got louder and louder until they finally made it to the river, and the voices stopped. They turned around, and no one was there.
There's been a lot of creepy stuff that has been happening in Texas over the past couple of years. There was this woman named Deborah. Deborah was from a place just north of San Antonio, and she lived with her husband and daughter. Well, one night she was coming home late from the store, and she pulls into her driveway. She gets out of her car and she starts unloading groceries out of the trunk. All of a sudden, she starts to hear a rustling sound behind her. And out of these woods that were across the street from her house, she sees 3 children walk out. They are dressed in all black and they look sort of out of place. They proceed to walk up to her and they have sort of this soft spoken voice. Ma'am, can we play with your daughter? Can we come inside and hang out with your daughter? And she's like, who are you? Like, where did you come from? They don't say anything. She goes, look, my daughter is like asleep and, you know, it's late at night. Like, what are you guys doing out? Where are your parents? They don't respond to that. They just keep asking her, can we come inside and play with your daughter? So she's like, look, no, you cannot. Like, I don't know who you are. It's late at night. Like, you need to go back home. But they kept on, like, taunting her, saying, you know, let us play with your daughter. And as she kept telling them no, they became more and more aggressive. So they started to yell insults and they started cussing her out. And she runs inside and gets her husband. Her husband comes out there thinking, you know, like, who are these kids? When he gets outside, there's no one out there. So he comes in and he tells his wife, like, are you sure you've seen kids out there? Because it's just completely quiet. There's no one out there. But she's insistent that these kids were harassing her, asking to play with their daughter. So after a few weeks, she kind of forgets about all this. And she's at home one day. Her daughter's in the bedroom. And she overhears her daughter, like, laughing and giggling, like she's hanging out with someone in her bedroom. But she knows that it's just her and her daughter. So she calls for her daughter. And when her daughter comes to the living room, she asks, you know, hey, like, what's going on in your room? Like, is there someone here? Like, why are you laughing and, like, giggling like you're playing with someone? And she goes, oh, mommy, like, my new friends, I invited them in and they came into my room and we're playing. She goes, what new friends? And she goes, I met them. They came from the woods across the street. And so instantly the mom's like, stay here. She runs to the bedroom. And when she opens the door, there's no one there. So she goes back to her daughter and says, who are these kids? Like, you know, where did they go? She goes, Mom, I don't know. They were in my room. She goes, I've been playing with them for the past couple of weeks. And so the mom is just like floored. Like, did she invite these kids that I seen outside in the house? So she tells her daughter, you are not to hang out with them anymore until I talk to their parents and figure out, like, what's going on and talk to them about how they were harassing me. So the daughter agrees and she goes back to her bedroom. And so she leaves her house and she goes around to some of the neighbors and she starts asking them, like, do you know anything about these kids? And none of the neighbors know who these people are. And so she comes back to her house. And when she gets back to her house, it's now dark. She sees her daughter next to the woods across the street. So she immediately runs over to her. What are you doing? Like, why are you out of the house? She goes, oh, mommy, I'm going to play with the kids that were in my room. They told me to come in the woods. And so she tells her, no, you get in the house now. So she brings her in the house. And over the next couple of weeks, she keeps, you know, hearing about these imaginary friends that she can't see that this girl's playing with, but she never, like, sees them again. And then one day they were driving and they were in this terrible accident and the daughter got hurt really bad. So did the mother. And Deborah attributed that to this encounter she had with these strange children.
I still feel weird about talking about this online, but a few years ago I moved to Los Angeles and I needed a roommate fast. I ended up moving in with this guy. He seemed pretty normal. He had a very clean apartment. He had a steady job. He was very friendly. He started to invite me to these self-improvement meetings. He never called it like a religion or a group. They were literally just like courses. He kept saying things to me like, once you understand how the world works, like, everything's gonna change, da-da-da-da-da. Eventually I did get curious and I did go to one of these courses. The building that he took me to, it looked more like an office than a church. Lights were very, very bright. There was cameras everywhere, people in and out. The thing that kind of gave me a red flag at first is the people would ask me very deep questions, like right off the bat before they even knew me. They'd ask me like my fears, my childhood trauma, very deep things that you don't really start conversations off with. At one point, an older lady, she pulled me aside and she said, you seem like somebody who's gonna be ready to level up quickly. and for some reason that just didn't sit very well with me. I told my roommate afterwards that that place felt kind of strange, and he just looked at me and he got a very cold, like, still face, and he said, "Don't ever say that around them." This is the part that makes me feel even worse and the reason why I moved out. I got home one day and there was a folder on my bed with my name typed out on the front, and it was filled with conversations typed out that I don't remember having while I was there. Another part of the folder was a list that said potential vulnerabilities, and it mentioned insecurities that I mentioned during this meeting, but the thing is that it had some things listed that I know I didn't talk about, and I know my roommate doesn't know either. On the last page of this folder was a date and a time for my next session, which I never agreed to go to a next session. I'm not sure what this all was about, but I'm pretty certain my roommate was trying to get me to join a cult.
I need to tell you guys this ghost story. This story was sent into my email, and if you have any ghost stories, paranormal encounters, or scary stories that you want to share, you can send them to the email in my bio. Whatever followed me back that night was waiting for me under my sister's bed. I grew up in a small town, a very typical small town feel, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and you grow up feeling nothing can touch you. You're safe and warm and protected. The road that our house sat on sat about 10 minutes outside of the town, tucked away in one of those unassuming suburban neighborhoods that looked pristine and dreamy in the daytime. But that road started to feel very different after dark. There were only maybe 10 houses on our road, and each one separated by acres of open grass. And because we were on the outskirts, there were no streetlights, no traffic, no noise, just long stretches of darkness between porch lights. When I was 12, a neighbor girl invited me to her birthday party sleepover. All the other girls in the neighborhood were older than I was, so naturally this made the entire invitation much more exciting for me. They were all 8th graders, and I was a year below them. The night of the party comes around, and at about 5 o'clock, with the sun just beginning to dip from the sky, I left my home and walked across the field to her house. When I got there, I counted about 10 of us girls in total. And the fun started immediately. Cake, games, laughing, a pristine girls' sleepover happening all while the sun is setting deeper and deeper into the horizon until it was gone altogether. Outside, the adults all gathered around a fire pit, and us girls decided it was time to head indoors. Once out of the eyes and ears of our supervision, one of the girls suggested we play Charlie, Charlie. Now let me fill you into the rules of the game for those who might not be aware. It's an old game, using paper and a few pencils. The object is to draw a cross in the center, and on the corners you write a simple yes and no. Then you balance one pencil across another. Then the game starts. And so do the questions, because that's what you're supposed to do. Summon Charlie and ask him questions and watch him move the pencils to the appropriate answer on the paper. And for some reason, we all sat in a circle around what at the time was an unthreatening display of office equipment. At first, our questions went unanswered. We asked stupid questions. Things like, Charlie, are you here? Charlie, do you like boys? Charlie, who's the cutest girl here? Nothing. No answers besides our own giggles. 5 minutes passed, and the allure was about to wear off, and then one of the girls leaned forward and asked, Charlie, Charlie, are you a demon? And the pencil moved. It slowly twisted, so far that I thought it was going to fall off of the pencil beneath it, wobbling and tilting, and then something stopped it. An invisible force was holding the pencil in place at an angle that couldn't have been possible. And then it was pushed back to the yes. Thinking back, after all the years since that night, I still can't explain that moment. The way the pencil moved, it was unnatural. All of us screamed, and like dominoes, one after the other, we ran outside to tell the parents. And as parents do, they laughed. Said someone must have bumped it, the air in the room must have kicked on, some sort of plausible explanation. Said that we were scaring ourselves, and eventually we believed them, calmed down, and moved on. Or we tried to. Later we decided to play hide and seek outside, but we were never able to completely shake off what had happened in that bedroom upstairs. Something just felt off, even before we started playing. Something had been left unfinished, or a door none of us could see had been left open. Around 11, instead of staying, I decided to just go home. I figured I would feel better about the entire night in the comfort of my own bed. I said goodbye to everyone and started walking back through the dark field to my house. Because I was initially supposed to be staying until morning, I found myself with no flashlight, just moonlight over the grass to guide me on my way back. The only sound was the swish of my feet through the grass. And with each step, I noticed just how alone I was, and my thoughts kept going back to that pencil, to that eerie feeling that followed us for the rest of the night. And as I was trying to shift my thoughts to something else, anything else, that's when I heard it, right beside my ear. So soft that I might have missed it. A whisper so close I could almost feel the breath. Hey, and then something tapped my shoulder. I spun around so fast with my heart pounding in my ears, thinking one of the girls from the party had followed me. A small prank on the youngest girl invited who got scared and decided to ditch the sleepover altogether. But there was no one there. No girl, no laughter, no gotcha. Just darkness and the open field around us. I sprinted home, burst through the front door to my parents watching TV and looking surprised at my sudden entrance. I didn't tell them. I felt they would have dismissed me like the adults back at the party. They would have told me I was imagining things, so I just said goodnight, went downstairs to my basement bedroom, and got into bed. I left the lights on way too long. When I finally had gotten my breathing, heartbeat, and thoughts under control, I convinced myself that it was safe to shut them off, and so I did. Then I ran to my bed and hid under the blankets. And for the first time that night, everything felt quiet and almost safe. So after all the adrenaline of the night, I started to drift off until I heard a crinkling noise, like something slowly crushing a receipt. Every few minutes, every time I'd almost fall asleep, and my eyes got heavy again, crinkle. And every time my eyes would shoot open, and I would try to focus on the sound in the darkness, but every time I'd be met with silence. And this happened again and again and again for over an hour, and finally, I was able to track the pattern of the sound closely enough to realize it was coming from under my sister's bed, 5 feet away from me, the bed that was empty because she was out for the night. So I was scared and hearing things and completely alone, and the more it happened, the angrier I got. I felt like I was being taunted. So finally, I sat up and I started praying out loud, saying whatever came to mind. Any little prayer I thought would have some meaning and power behind it, anything. And as I chanted, the crinkling got louder and more aggressive, like it was competing with me, trying to get me to stop. And then I saw my sister's bed move. Slowly, it started pulling away from the wall, like whatever was underneath it, making that noise, was pushing it out towards me. I launched out of bed and ran upstairs, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. But when I got upstairs and all the lights were off and my parents were in bed, I knew that if I woke them, they would write me off again. So I stood there at the top of the stairs, trying to decide my next move. And as I was staring back down into the darkness, I saw it. A black shadow. A head peeking at me from around the stairwell, watching me. The second I noticed it, it whipped back out of sight and I froze. I swear I couldn't even get a breath in. Every instinct in my body screamed to flight, but to where? I was defeated and tired and out of options, so I grabbed a blanket, went to the living room, and settled in on the couch until eventually I fell asleep. And whatever had been downstairs thankfully stayed downstairs. And to this day, I wonder if it all started that night, when a group of girls asked a series of silly questions and eventually got an answer.
Let's watch this video together. Take out of the brain, is this real or fake? Is this AI or not? Instead, we're going to feel with our intuition. Intuition is subtle, emotions are loud. Feel with your intuition. Relax the body so you can hear, feel, see your intuition. 3 deep breaths. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale, blow it out. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale, blow it out. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale, blow it out. see you on the other side.
In a leaked video that emerged on the internet, an alleged encounter between a man and an extraterrestrial being took place at an undisclosed location within a secret base in the United States. The encounter reportedly occurred during the nighttime, and due to the video's quality, the specific surroundings remain unidentified. It is believed that this encounter took place in 2017, although no official confirmation from the government has been provided. The video begins with a man standing a short distance away from what appears to be an extraterrestrial being, commonly referred to as a gray. Both individuals face each other and maintain eye contact for several moments. The extraterrestrial's physical features resemble typical depictions of grays: a hairless, pale grayish skin tone, large dark eyes, and a slight frame. The man remains calm throughout the encounter, showing no signs of distress or fear. Their interaction appears to be nonverbal, as no audible communication is captured in the leaked video. Despite this, their body language seems engaged and focused. The man and the extraterrestrial being exchange glances, perhaps attempting to convey meaning or understanding to one another. It is worth noting that any interpretation of their interaction remains speculative due to the lack of context provided. After a brief period of visual engagement, the man and the extraterrestrial reach out and firmly shake hands. This momentary physical contact suggests a mutual acknowledgement or agreement between the two parties. The handshake appears formal, devoid of any overt displays of emotion or excitement. Both individuals maintain a composed demeanor throughout the encounter, further adding to the enigmatic nature of the video. It is important to emphasize that the authenticity and veracity of this video remain unverified. As no official confirmation or statements have been released by the government or reputable sources, skepticism should be exercised when evaluating the footage. The leaked video serves as a piece of intriguing but unconfirmed evidence in the realm of alleged extraterrestrial encounters. As with any leaked material, its origin and intentions behind its release by an anonymous source raise additional questions about its credibility. The lack of supporting information or corroboration adds further complexity to the assessment of this alleged encounter. Without official documentation or reliable sources, it is impossible to draw definitive conclusions regarding the nature and significance of this encounter. Until further evidence emerges or official disclosures are made, this leaked video remains an unverified curiosity within the realm of alleged extraterrestrial encounters.
I will have a deeper read over on Patreon. Parts of this video are real, parts of it are fake. That being was not communicating with anybody. There was no one else in that video. That man was edited in. They did something to his arms. I feel like they may have been doing tests and destroyed the poor being's hands and altered it so it didn't look grotesque. But those are not the being's original arms. Being held captive, deeply depressed, scared, and under control. Somehow they lost their powers, their abilities to remove themselves. And so they're very much like how we are, like very physically dense and stuck in the body, unable to levitate or remove themselves out of the situation. It's complicated why they can't be rescued, because if others come and try and rescue, they're saying they will also be grabbed and held captive. This being is sacrificing itself to save the rest of their group. I understand there are situations where beings will communicate with humans, work with them, what have you, but that is not the case here. This being is deeply disturbed and uncomfortable and being held against its will. Desensitize yourself so you are not wasting time in shock and awe and asking if it's real, and instead go to, how can I help? How can I feel this being? How can I feel what's really going on inside them? We're going to stop with the trivial conversations of, I don't know if this is real or fake. I don't know if this is AI or not. Why? Because we're ready to raise our consciousness, and we have to do it now. And when we raise our consciousness, it means that our intuition will show us the way. Our intuition will tell us when something is real or fake. So it will no longer be of concern if it's AI or not, because we will know. I want you to keep something in mind. This video here, for some of you, will trigger and open up something in you. That does not mean the video is real. It means that the video opened up something that you have been waiting to discover. Sometimes paranormal or ET videos may not be quote unquote real, but they are there to open somebody up intuitively. And sometimes paranormal videos and ET sightings are real, and they will also open up something inside of us. This is why I said it doesn't matter if it's real or fake. What matters is that it's opening you up, not to believing something, but to knowing something. There's a difference. Believing is a choice. Knowing is you connecting to your higher self, and the information floods through and it's undeniable. It's that gut feeling that is undeniable. Doesn't matter what anyone else says, you felt it. You know. Emotions, they're real strong, they're real loud. You can question them. Knowing, intuitive knowing, cannot be questioned because it is undeniable in that gut. Or maybe you feel it in your third eye, or maybe you hear it in your ears. Everyone feels, sees, hears differently. Become desensitized to these images. This is very important. Whether it's AI or not, it does not matter. Watch them. Become desensitized. So when the time comes, you are not caught off guard. You are ready.
Might have known the story of real-life boogeyman.
Does anyone else remember when people were finding random staircases in the woods? Reports about these mysterious stairways showing up in the middle of the forest began happening in the early 2010s. An entire Reddit thread was created just to share photos and locations of these staircases that were discovered. That thread was started by a search and rescue officer sharing his creepy experiences coming across these staircases in the forest while searching for missing people. According to the original poster, when he asked people on his team, he was told by all of the other officers not to worry about them, that they were normal, but he was also advised to stay away from them and to never, under any circumstances, climb the staircases, but with no explanation why. He described them as standing entirely alone in the middle of nowhere, usually 30 to 40 miles into the forest, and not attached to any ruins of any buildings, almost as if someone had taken the stairs from a house, cut them out, and put them in the woods. He also clarified that these staircases are not just old decaying steps from a long gone house. He instead described them as usually in immaculate condition, sometimes made from materials that just don't make sense for being in the forest, like polished marble or wrought iron, and they all seemingly lead to nowhere. This thread created a plethora of conspiracy theories that the stairways were possibly some sort of gateway to another time or dimension. It went so far that even a horror show called Channel Zero picked up the storyline for one of the seasons of their show. In the show, the staircase in the forest serves as a portal to transport the main characters to a mansion owned by a family of ritualistic cannibals.
We listen, we don't get scared, and we don't judge. Let me give you guys a story time of when this guy killed his girlfriend, and then he called this other guy that I was chilling with at 2 a.m. to come and help him hide the body. So this guy was my friend. We're gonna call him London for story's sake. So at this particular time, me and London were chilling together and some other people. But the people started like slowly leaving. And you know, we thought that it was gonna be a 6 to 6 type of vibe, but people started slowly leaving. So we were just chilling, playing games or whatever. So we're playing PlayStation or whatever, and London gets a call from this particular guy. Now this guy, guys, and the girl we were all chilling together before all the chaos happened, you know what I mean? One thing about London's friend, he is known to be like a chaotic person once he drinks alcohol, but he doesn't really drink like that because he does the what? The substances. And the girl that he was with, they do substances together. Do you understand? So London puts the phone on like loudspeaker because he's thinking maybe, I don't know, like he's not thinking what he's about to be told. So London's friend is like, dog, like, where are you? He's like, oh, I'm at my place. What's going on? He's like, who are you with there? He's like, I'm still sitting with so and so. He's like, oh, am I on loudspeaker? He's like, no, you're not on loudspeaker. He was on loudspeaker. He's like, are you on loudspeaker? He's like, no, I'm not. No, you're not on loudspeaker. What's going on? He's like, dog, I made a mistake. I need help. I need help. I need help. London is like, what did you do? What happened? He's like, so remember the girl that I was with today, bruh? She passed out in my bed. I don't know. At first, he's like, I don't know if she's dead or not. I think she's still alive. She's still breathing. So London is like, why don't you just call the paramedics, right? Just call the ambulance or whatever and tell them that, you know. And he's like, but thing is, remember we're doing substances. Don't you think they'll say X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, no, you just tell them that you can just be honest and tell the people that, oh, you know, we were trying to have some fun, so we did a little bit off and then she collapsed. London's friend is like, no, ish, dog, that's not possible. That's not possible. And then he's like, ish, listen, I'll call you back. He hangs up. And then, like, we think, like, he's joking or whatever. And we don't think that this person could have killed the girl. We'll continue playing. 5 minutes later, he calls again. He's like, London, dog, like, I'm outside your house. London is like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm outside your house. Please come and open the gate. It's not in a house, per se. It's like an apartment type setting. Like, please come and open for me, yabo. And then it's like, hey, bo, dog, like, okay, cool, yeah, bo. So I'm like, imagine he didn't take that girl to the hospital and he brought her here. Oh, guys. London opens the gates, Shapo, he comes in, and they talk about. So I'm standing outside and I'm looking at, like, the whole thingy. He opens the boot, and London kind of went, like, you know, because I was looking at them, but I couldn't really see what was going on. So London keeps on talking to him. Aibo, Shapo. London comes back to the house and he leaves, but it took like a good an hour, you know, as they were talking, you know what I mean? They took a really long time. London comes back to me like traumatized. And like, what happened? What did you see? He's like, dog, like so and so, I feel like so and so killed that girl. You know, I'm like, why? He's like, because like that is a dead body. Like, that is not a person. That is not a living, breathing human being. Like, that person looks dead. Like, they are blue. I'm like, maybe the drugs did something to her. And he's like, no, I feel like so-and-so did something to this girl, because why is he refusing to take her to the hospital and just tell them that, you know, if there's no foul play, just take the girls to the hospital. So London is like, tells me that, yeah, no, he feels like, you know, they probably got into a fight because the girl looks like she has some scars to her. And he's like, London is like, no, you know, I basically just advised him to go and throw her in a ditch somewhere, and then tell the people that if they look for her, tell them that, oh, I don't know where she went. She left my house. We got into a fight and she left. I'm like, London, you were trying to become an accomplice. He's like, no. As he's like, no, he picks the phone and calls the police on his friend. He was like, there is no way I'm going to jail for something that I don't know. I don't even know what happened. I would snitch too on my friend. I'm not going to jail for you. I'm sorry. Because you're going to tell the people that you came to my house first and I was the one that told you to go and throw that body somewhere. Never. Calls the police, tells them the situation, whatever. The police got there, I think after 30 minutes. They get there, they ask us what happened. You know, they're not talking to me because I don't know nothing. They're talking to London, and London explains the whole situation to them, and they're like, where does your friend stay? He's like, yeah, I can show y'all. Mid guys conversation, the other police, they were police officers that went to go search for the body, because that's what London said. He said he told the guy to do this and he feels like he's gonna do it. So mid conversation, they get a call from another, you know, police officer, and the guy is like, yeah, we found the body in a field, you know, not so far from where London stays. And obviously now London's story checks out, and they go, I go inside the van with London, whatever. They drive to this guy's place. When they get there, guys, they knock, no response. Knock, no response. I don't know, I think they waited, and then they tell London to call the guy. London tries to call the guy, the phone is on voicemail. The police officer tries to call the guy with her phone, the phone goes, the phone doesn't go through, it goes to voicemail. They try to call again, and they're like, this guy probably threw his SIM card away. That's what it's giving. They decide they leave, then they're gonna come back tomorrow morning, because London did say that, they were drinking, whatever. We were drinking, and he left. We all left, went back, and I could not sleep after that. Even London was like, damn, like, I'm so scared. Like, what if he comes here? I'm like, girl, like, you know what I mean? Because we were sitting on the couch. We were gonna sleep in separate bedrooms. Yeah, but like, now that we are scared, nobody's going to sleep. I'm also not going anywhere, because what if he can't? Like, we were just paranoid for no reason. And also London snitched, you know what I mean? Like, what happens to snitches exactly? Morning comes, the police come back again to get us. When we get there, they knock on the door, the guy still doesn't open. They knock on the door, the guy still doesn't open. The neighbor sees that there's police officer and he asks, how can I help you guys? I know the landlord, because this guy's renting. They're like, please give us the landlord's number. They tell the landlord what happened. Landlord is like, no, please don't break down my door. I'm coming. Landlord gets there, opens the door, guys. They go inside. And they start searching. Guys, when they went to the room, there was so much blood. There was so much of it. I could not, like, you could tell that these people kind of got into a fight, and this girl probably died right here, because we were allowed to go in, because, why not? So I stood there at the door, and we just looked, and like the police officers came in, and then I think they started calling forensics. The landlord is shocked. Baby boy took some of his clothes and left. Hi, boy, they're like now looking around, like it seems like they got into a fight or whatever, and also because the girl was on substances, like the more times that he hit her was the more that he was just taking the life out of her. Like, I feel like it would be easier for you to beat me up and I would survive, but because she was doing whatever she was doing, like her arteries or whatever, or her veins, they were all messed up. So you know what I mean? Yeah. They allowed us to leave or whatever, and I think London went to the police station, I don't remember, to write down his statement or whatever. Then they told London that as the court, if they find him and the trial begins, they are going to call him back again, I think to become state witness or something, I don't know. But then eventually we were allowed to leave. I went back home, whatever, and when I tell you, they did not even take time. They found the guy at his mother's place. Like, you committed a crime. Why would you go to a place that they're obviously going to look for you there? You can't hide at your parents' house knowing damn well you stole something. They're gonna first look for you there. They found him sleeping, because obviously he had crashed out because of the drugs that he was doing. Drugs don't make you sleep sometimes. So they take him and they put him in the car, the police car, and he goes to jail, I guess. Well, yeah, he did. And apparently when he told the story, he was like, they got into a fight because the girl was cheating on him, and the girl was the one that threw the first slap, and then that's when he spiraled, and then he started like going in, and he did not realize that she was unconscious at some point, and he just kept on going in. And they're like, what about the scars that looked like you were cutting her up? He was like, he was trying to basically kind of chop her limbs up so that he can go dig a grave somewhere in the field and basically dump her there. Do you get it? And he's like, he realized that he did not have much time because it was gonna become morning soon. So if he had like dug her up and cut her up, it would just taken a long time. So he decided to go to his friend, blah blah blah. Like, he pleaded guilty, y'all. He had no chance of running away. But yeah, man, that's what happened. I'm just glad the girl got justice, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I don't know, guys. That was just crazy. That was crazy. It traumatized me before, they found him. Even though they found him really quickly, but I was still scared that, hey, maybe this person knows that we snitched on him. What if he comes looking for me because London did that? You know what I mean? I don't know. I was just scared.